crowns at the feet of Jesus. The greatness of your mercy and love at the feet of Jesus. And we cry, holy, holy, holy. We cry, holy, holy, holy. And we cry, holy, holy, holy is the Lamb. We fall down, we lay our crowns at the feet of Jesus. The greatness of your mercy and love at the feet of Jesus. And we cry, holy, holy, holy. We cry, holy, holy, holy. We cry, holy, holy, holy is the Lamb. And we cry, holy, holy, holy. And we cry, holy, holy, holy. We cry, holy, holy, holy is the Lamb. And we cry, holy, holy, holy. We cry, holy, holy, holy. And we cry, holy, holy, holy is the Lamb. I'm forgiven because you were forsaken, and I'm accepted. You were condemned. I'm alive and well. Your spirit is within me because you died and rose again. I'm forgiven because you were forsaken. I'm accepted, you were condemned. And I'm alive and well, your spirit is within me because you died and rose again. Amazing love, how can it be that you, my King, would die for me? Amazing love, I know it's true. It's my joy to honor you. In all I do, I honor you. I'm forgiven because you were forsaken, and I'm accepted. You were condemned. And I'm alive and well, your spirit is within me because you died and rose again. You are my King. You are my King. Jesus, you are my King.
happy COVID-19, coronavirus weekend. It's been 9 weeks, 8 weeks. Some of us been 15 weeks. We've been celebrating staying at home, quarantine. Everybody got your mask. I've got my mask. Did you see my mask? Isaiah 61:3. They will be called oaks of righteousness and planting of the Lord. Some church didn't want one, so I got an extra one, and it looks really cute. I even got Velcro. There's nothing like, if you got a Velcro mask, let me know, because I probably am the only one that's got a Velcro mask. But it's so cute, I couldn't stand it. Hey, we've been 4 weeks in my favorite chapter, in the favorite book in the New Testament, Philippians chapter 4. And I wanted to wrap it up in the next 4 or 5 weeks with my favorite character, the most Christ-like character in the Old Testament. So we're going to go back to Genesis chapter 37 through 50, somewhere along there, but we're going to do in the next 4 or 5 weeks, we're going to talk about the main thing in Philippians chapter 4. Do you remember what that was? The presence of God. How do you practice the presence of the Father in your life? And we're going to study it through the life of Joseph. And I wish I could take credit for all of these statements that I'm going to say. But if anything sounds really good in the statements that I say, it came from this young preacher that I heard on YouTube called Adrian Rogers, back when he was young. Of course, he's passed away, but many of my favorite Baptist preachers have stolen a lot of his sermons. Well, I've never stolen any of his sermons till today. And so I've gotten most of these points. If anything sounds good, it's not from me. It's from the Lord through Adrian Rogers. And so thank you for going through this with us. We're going to be talking about Joseph. And so first, this week, I want to talk about who Joseph was. And my first statement is this. You ready? The greatest tragedy of all would be to come to your deathbed already being ready to die, but discovering that you've never lived. See, a lot of our churchy folk have never really lived. They've lived in the flesh most of their lives. Matter of fact, Billy Graham said 9 out of 10 church people, Christians, believers, don't understand what it means to live in the Spirit and not in the flesh. Isn't that sad? That's why 9 out of 10 folks have never shared Jesus with anybody they know, wherever they go. And so when you understand John 10:10, which says, I did not come to give, I came to give you life. The thief came to steal, kill, and destroy. But I have come to give you life and give you a bunch of it, abundant life. And so most people have just endured and existed, never really learned how to live. And some people are born with so little and do so much, and some people are born with so much and do so little because they've let the Lord work through them, and those who had so much think they can do it in their own strength. And so if you don't get anything else out of today's message, and you're getting ready to change it over anyway, because I know about you guys who are like me. I have ADHD and ESPN and all those things that don't have much of an attention span, like Steve Gallup, my friend. So if you don't get anything else, understand this. God can take your little, my little, the little bit I have, talents and strength and provisions and all the things, but he can do much with it when God is in it. And so take some time and understand, because the difference in who you are is the presence of God. The presence of God. And of course, in Philippians chapter 4, once you get his presence, you get his peace. Once you get his peace, you get his power. When you get his power, you've got his provision, and he'll take care of you and provide all of your needs according to his riches and glory, not my riches and glory. And so the Old Testament supplies us with a story of the young man called Joseph. And his whole life was practicing the presence of God. There was a constant refrain, and The Lord was with him. The Lord was with Joseph. The Lord was with him. The Lord was with Joseph. That's what I want on my tombstone. I did another funeral yesterday, and I've got to do a couple more in the next few weeks. But I want on my last words, and the Lord was with him. Wouldn't that be a great testimony? It is a great testimony. Perhaps the most Christ-like character in all the Old Testament is Joseph. But here's the key. Joseph wasn't born with a lot. He was born into an upper-class family, Jacob, but his family was very dysfunctional. Can you relate to that? He was in a dysfunctional family. His father, Jacob, was a con artist, and just by his nature. His mother, Rachel, died when he was in the middle of his teens. He lived in a swarm of wicked, ungodly brothers, 11 ungodly brothers. Joseph's mother, Rachel, was Jacob's favorite wife. So Jacob made Joseph his favorite son and gave him a coat of many colors. Some of you know the story about all of that. And then Joseph had the audacity to have a dream and tell his brothers about his dream, that one of these days he was going to rule over his brothers. Boy, you don't tell your older brothers you're going to rule over them. I can't even imagine my brothers telling me all that stuff. And so Joseph went through this, and when he was 17 years old, then things started to fall apart with Joseph. His brothers connived and planned and plotted to kill him. And one of the brothers finally said, no, we can't kill him. Let's sell him. And so a caravan came by their group, their little meeting place, and they said, let's sell them. And it was a caravan going to Egypt. And so they put him on the slave block and sold him. And then when they got to Egypt, they sold him to a man named Potiphar. Potiphar was the one who protected Pharaoh. He was a high up official in the court of Pharaoh. And Potiphar made Joseph a slave. And so Joseph, because of his character and integrity, began to rise up in the ranks of Potiphar's slaves until he was inside the house of Potiphar. Well, that was not good, because you're talking about an 17, 18-year-old boy who was very fit and beautiful young man, which a lot of 18-year-old boys are. Not all of you, but some of you are. And he got the eye of Potiphar's wife. Well, Potiphar's wife continued to try to seduce him. And here was Joseph. Finally, one day, she got so upset with him, she threw herself on him, and he ran from her. He kept himself pure and ran from her. But she grabbed his coat and grabbed his cloak again, the coat. Not the coat of many colors, but the coat he was wearing, and accused him of taking her and molesting her and even raping her. And so what did Potiphar do? Well, he did what every married man will do. He listened to his wife, and he threw him in jail. While he was in jail, he rose to the ranks again because of his character and his integrity, his Christ-likeness. Joseph rose. And the jailer was so impressed with, he put him in charge of all the prisoners. He was just a wonderful young man. And all of a sudden, he interpreted some dreams for two guys, the baker and the butler. And one of them was let out, but forgot to bless Joseph back. Joseph had blessed him, but he forgot him. And so here's Joseph in prison. He went from the prime son of the number one man in the country of Israel, Jacob's son, to the pit, to the prison. And in the prison, while he's in prison, Pharaoh has a dream. And many of you can go back and read the story in Genesis chapters 37 through 50. Pharaoh has a dream. And Pharaoh dreams, and he sees 7 good cows and 7 pitiful cows. And Joseph interprets the dream. And of course, it fits right in with everything. And because of Joseph's wisdom, his character, and his integrity, Pharaoh takes him out of prison, puts him in the penthouse, makes him the prime minister of Egypt, the number one place, the number one country, the number one nation in the world. And here is Pharaoh. Says, Joseph, you're in charge of everything. You take care of all the barns, and you take care of all the storehouses, and you do all of that stuff. Now, how did Joseph go from the pit to the prison to the penthouse and to the prime ministry? The presence of God. Wow, the presence of God. And so Joseph's dream comes true when the brothers show up. Here's the key verses. Genesis 39:2, Genesis 39:21, and Genesis 39:23. Because the Lord was with Joseph. The Lord was with Joseph. The Lord was with Joseph. The presence of God. The Lord was with Joseph. How are you going to make it in this world? How are you going to make it through all the rest of this coronavirus without a mask, without gloves, without hand sanitizer? How are you going to make it without toilet paper? The presence of God. That's how Joseph did it. No matter what happened in Joseph's life, from the pit to the prison to the penthouse, he remembered and focused on the Father. In the presence of his Father, the Lord was with Joseph. The Lord was with him. So here's my last statement. You ready? The story of Joseph shows us principles, and we're going to talk about the 4 principles of having real prosperity. But prosperity is nothing but this. It's the progressive revelation of the will of God in our lives. What is prosperity? The progressive revelation, as God reveals things to you, of the will of God in my life. I want all of you to prosper. That's what God says in his word, that all of you would prosper. But that doesn't mean you're going to have a new car, a new house. That simply means I'm going to understand the will of God for my life today, and then when I make it to tomorrow, I'm going to understand it tomorrow as he reveals it to you. But it all starts with the presence of your Father. Thank you for today. Lord, bless everyone that listens in a special way. In Jesus' name.